I have one other question, which is that you're trained in doing drafting.
Yeah.
And you have all this skill, but why are you looking for that kind of job?
I believe it is very hard to find a job. I tried when I was in Toronto, and I tried even when I was in Detroit. I tried. But really it was a very hard time to find one. So I started that job, but I took few classes, but still it is easy to make, that kind of money being, as a waitress without any stress, So
Do you think part of it is that being somebody who's immigrated, like an immigrant in America, it's, even though you have the training, it's harder to get a job?
Sometimes it is harder, but some people do find a job, But in most cases, in most technical, cases, you can find a job, that is technical work, So it's not required any. The standard is the same, drawing is drawing, So you could find, but. Probably you find very few opening, so I didn't get a chance at the time to practice my drafting.
Okay. Yeah. So when did you start actually working?
Sometimes in early April 89, I start working, as a waitress at the hotel.
Can you tell me about what happened then?
Then, exactly, I don't remember the day. One day, I finished my schedule, and I work early in the morning. I work breakfast and lunch shift. So the lunch shift finished about 2:30. So I believe it is about 2:30. After I finish my work, I just took the employee elevator, to go to locker room, and so that day I remember, when I start, when the door open, the elevator door open, when I try, when I start to go out from the elevator, two Ethiopians, who's, have the uniform, the uniform was, they are standing by the elevator, they are waiting that elevator to go up, so while I was go down. So we met at the floor level, and they said hi to me. I said hi to them, and they throw a few questions. Hi, are you new? Yeah, I told them yes, I'm new. And then one of the guys said, are you from Atlanta? He said. I said, no, I'm from Toronto. And while he was, saying that, I feel something, I feel something, something which makes me, nervous. The voice, I don't know where. I don't remember it clearly, but I know that voice, I just heard that voice somewhere, a long time ago. So at the moment, I didn't think clearly, and I feel something in my stomach, when it's getting tight, So I left that day, thinking, about the voice, It's long time ago. I heard that voice, but I don't know where.
So you're asking yourself, where did I hear this voice?
Yeah, I was asking myself, where did I hear this voice, Who is this person? So I was thinking for a while, and then, I just left it alone, But something nagging me inside, The next morning, when I came to the restaurant, I went straight, to the kitchen, and I went to the schedule board. I saw the schedule board. I read the names. When I read the names, I know one of that names, the name which, gives me shiver, inside out. And at the moment, I said, it must be crazy, And I don't want to believe, even, some part of me remember everything what had happened, and but I don't want, to think, it is, that guy, I know 15 years ago back in Ethiopia. So I said, no, there are a lot of names, in my country that similar names, a lot of names, So they have the same name and same last name, It's common. So I said, no, it's not gonna be him, The man I know long time in Ethiopia, he was different, he's different. The man I saw it in Colony Square Hotel. The one I saw in Colony Square Hotel, he's chubby. His hair is short, and his personality changed. He's getting older, he looks older, and with that, kind of uniform, and that guy, the guy who acts like a god, in his time in Ethiopia, the guy who decided who gonna live or who die. That guy, to see him in the dishwasher uniform, no. I said, no, it's not gonna be him, People look alike, some say, some people asking me, oh, you look like my sister, You look somebody, Do you know her, So I said, no, it's not gonna be him, I just want to take it out of my mind, all the thoughts, I did for the time being, But every day while I was sleeping, I was thinking about, the guy, Even though, I tried to push out from my mind, but I always, have, this nagging, thought, what I'm gonna do, if it is him, what is gonna happen, Am I gonna live in fear, all over again? So I was thinking all that, but I have to get more information, more information about this guy, to make it, to the point, to say, absolutely it is him. So I have to come to that point. And one thing, I want to be in a survival mode, I don't want, to believe, it is for me, it is hard to swallow all these things again. am I unlucky? After all this time, I found a job with that, at that hotel, to meet that guy. So all these things, it was very difficult for me to swallow at the time. And always, when I talk to a friend, I'm asking, people, is anybody have any idea, about Kalisa, where he had, is anyone has some information? I talk, always, nobody knows what was going on with him. And the time was still, the Derg was in power at that time, so you don't call home, or you don't, speak to anyone freely, and or you don't write letter, whatever you want, you don't write it, you might afraid, for your other person who was there, so you don't say anything, even in Ethiopia, you don't call and ask, about somebody, they might catch, the phone, so for me it is hard time, to get more information. But always I want to have something, So one thing I remember, there is a guy, another Ethiopian guy who's working with him, at the same kitchen. And I was asking him, sometimes, do you know about this guy,
Can you stop and put those down? Because I can hear it. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I was asking the guy, do you know, did you talk to him, about, did you see he said something, I was, I'm not asking him directly, but indirectly, I'm throwing some kind of question. He said, no, he told me he's working as a health officer in Addis Ababa. The guy told me so many things, and but that's not enough, It's not enough proof, So it took me more than 7 or 6 months, to find out. One day, after I finished my schedule, I went downstairs to the cafeteria to drink something, and while I was walking in, there was a group of Ethiopians, they are employee of the hotel. They are talking. One of them was Kalbesa. He was sitting with 2 other individuals, Ethiopian individuals. They are talking. I don't know what they are talking, but I believe it is about our country. And the other guy who used to work with him, sitting by himself in another table, So I joined the other guy, the guy with the one who was sitting by himself, and I listened the other table, what they're talking, and they were discussing, about Ethiopian political situation, that kind of thing, But I wasn't involved in the discussion. But I had, my own, discussion with the guy, we were talking, so accidentally that the guy who was working with Kalbesa said, oh, do you heard, he sponsored 3 of his kids from Ethiopia, and they arrived here in Atlanta 3 days ago. He told me that information, So I just calmly asked him, what about his wife? I asked him, what about his wife? The guy said, I believe they divorced a long time ago. He just only his kids arrived in Atlanta. Then I have this urge, to ask him one last question. So I said very calmly, his name is Abdul. So I just asked him, Abdul, have you ever Albesa said to you he was in prison in Karchale? I just asked him like that, have he said anything being in Karchalli, you know. The guy so innocently said, yes, he was in Karchalli for 5 years. Yes, he was in prison in 5 years. Yeah, he told me that. Wow, I said, well, that's it. That's it, you know. The guy who was a torturer, who was, you know, responsible for so many people's life. And the guy, you know, that guy, the nightmare of Ethiopia, Kalbisa, the one I know long time ago. That person, I remember he was in prison for 5 years in Karchalli. So now there is no turn back, you know, it is him. It's not another, you know, similar name. It's not another similar face. It is Kalbisa Nagao in person, you know, in life, you know, as a whole. He was, you know, he's there, you know, in Atlanta, in Colony Square. So that means my first guess was, you know, guts, you know, was right, you know. I felt something in my stomach, you know. I felt about the voice, you know. So that day, after I went home, I cried, you know, like crazy. And then I started to call, you know, my friends, and I just told them, you know, guys, I was asking you for a long time, you know, about Kalbisa. Kalbisa is here in Atlanta, and you know, the other, you know, what makes me very surprised, you know, he's working with me in Colony Square Hotel. Everybody was stunned at the time, you know. Everybody was stunned. You kidding? You must be crazy, you know. I don't think so, everybody said. I said yes. Yeah, Kalbisa Nagao is here in Atlanta as flesh and blood. So I told them. And the word spread, you know, within a day all over Atlanta.
So hold on for 1 second. I want to pause and just back up to clear up some things, okay?
Okay.
Before we go.